I believe I am feeling anxiety.
Early 2023 was a different time. A time of wonder. A time of hope. Well, not for most people, but for VR fans it was great. Especially PlayStation VR fans who, after many years of patience, were about to get their hands on the almighty PlayStation VR2. So as well as promising a whole host of next-gen hardware features such as advanced haptics and dynamic foveated rendering, Sony had also promised a pretty stellar launch lineup which included, amongst others, Switchback VR, the spiritual successor to beloved PSVR 1 launch title, Rush of Blood. So surely a crowd pleaser, right? Right? So I'm going to be doing a retrospective review of Switchback today because it's yet another game that originally released and was thus reviewed with significant issues, predominantly graphical problems such as blurriness, low resolution and texture popping, as well as other annoyances like very long load times. And as a result it's been left branded with a lot of low review scores now that, thanks to significant patches, are not just wrong, they're evil. And I'm going to quickly address a common criticism that people seem to have of this game, that it's nowhere near as good as Rush of Blood on PSVR 1, and I guess my challenge to people who still say that is, have you played Rush of Blood and Switchback recently? Back to back? Because for this review I did, and I had a bloody good time with both of them. But there's definitely some areas where Rush of Blood is better, and there's some areas where Switchback is obviously better, and I will cover all of these in this review. So like its predecessor, Switchback is the literal definition of an on-rail shooter. It's one huge ride. You're strapped into a rollercoaster car and it's all about reactive shooting and physically dodging out of the way as you're transported across different areas from the Dark Pictures games. Now gameplay was Switchback's biggest strength even before the patches, and nothing has changed. The shooting feels great in the sense controllers, with each weapon having its own different feeling haptics and adaptive triggers. The aiming is also spot on thanks to the sense controller tracking, and after playing Rush of Blood with the old floaty move controllers, I can confidently say that this is a significant upgrade. As we're talking about great uses of the hardware, have you ever had a stare out with a demon?
Yes, once.
As now seems a good time to mention the don't blink mechanic, which utilises the headset's eye tracking, causing your blinks to trigger enemy movement. And not just blinks either, look to your right and you'll hear them scurrying around to your left and vice versa. I mean, it's totally lifted from the Weeping Angels in Doctor Who, but it's so cool to see it happening in the headset and also to catch people off guard when they first try it out.
Fuck, I blinked too much. Oh god. I can't even do anything!
I've seen criticism of some of the pacing of the levels of the game. This isn't a criticism that I share. The game has around 10 levels and I thought that the pacing was balanced fairly well over the course of these. There are lots of tense, quieter moments where you get the chance to look around and absorb the surroundings and atmosphere, followed by chaos as you're attacked by swarms of enemies, which can be anything from creepy kids dolls to demon gargoyles. One point I do agree with, however, is that the roller coasters aren't quite as good as those in Rush of Blood. Rush of Blood seemed a bit more creative with its coaster design, and it feels like Switchback, they were trying really hard to make sure that people wouldn't get motion sick from it. Everything feels really smooth, maybe too smooth, and I guess I just preferred that rickety, grimy charm of the coasters in Rush of Blood. There are some puzzle sections which I guess feel a little tacked on. Some of these work better than others, such as when you need to try and release people from Saw-style traps, and it's a little bit tense sometimes, especially when they're screaming for their lives.
It's caught up in the structure!
But then there's other parts where you just need to shoot time switches in order, and they just feel a bit out of place. Boss battles are back, and each level has at least one. I'd say these are a little bit more spectacle than anything else, and usually involve just shooting it in the face. I don't think they're quite as memorable as the bosses from Rush of Blood. I mean, everybody remembers that spider boss, right? The last big patch also added a Horde mode to the game, which is actually pretty damn good. And sure, it's a wave shooter, but it's pretty challenging and addictive, and the sections between waves are separated by some of the most stomach-churning rollercoaster sections in the entire game. I think there's probably a lot of owners of the game who haven't even tried this yet, and if you're one of these, I'd encourage you to try it as soon as you can, because it's good. So as mentioned earlier, the game was a bit of a visual mess at launch, with blurry visuals and pop-in, and load times that lasted longer than your average British Prime Minister. On PSVR2's high-res screen, it looked like a PSVR1 game, and was rightly slated for it. PSVR2 owners deserve better. But the devs, Supermassive Games, listened, and in July released a patch that was literally a game changer, adding foveated rendering, upscaling, and revamped textures. Load times were also slashed, and further patches also addressed audio glitches and some problems with enemy AI. The end result is that Switchback VR is now a well-polished beast. The environments, from fog-drenched docks to ancient temples, look stunning in the headset, with dynamic lighting that helps ramp up the scares. The enemies now look great, finally becoming the well-detailed nightmares that we originally deserved. Sound design is pretty consistent throughout the game. The spatial audio is well implemented, and ambient noise makes the dripping ships and creaking buildings feel alive. The guns are okay, but sometimes sound a little bit flat, in particular the SMG, which doesn't feel like it has quite the right amount of punch for me. The music is good, the main theme is quite eerie, but it does lack that creepy carnival charm from Rush of Blood. So the story is tied to the Dark Pictures games, and unfortunately I still have not played any of them, so I just simply don't understand how the game fits into the overall narrative of the franchise. This is in contrast to Rush of Blood, where I'd already played Until Dawn several times over. What there is of a story in Switchback just seems to be a loose frame to build a game around. I don't really understand who the character on the box art is, or even why she's so pissed off with me. I don't even know who the other NPCs are either, just that they were in a train crash with me and that I can rescue them from traps throughout the game. Or I can leave them to their death. Oh yeah, and there's a man in a hat. So being an on-rails shooter, the game has quite a lot of replayability, particularly if you are a leaderboard chaser. And I've completed it at least 4 times now over the last couple of years. It's helped by the alternate paths that you can take throughout the game too, which I guess technically means it's rare that you're going to have 2 playthroughs the same. As mentioned earlier, you will have the option of rescuing the NPCs from traps, and you can decide each of their fates either way, sometimes with horrific results. The game also features full trophy support and platinum too, so there's lots of incentive to return and play through multiple times. So after the patches, I think Switchback VR is now an underappreciated gem amongst the PSVR2 exclusives, and sits comfortably in my top 25 games on the headset. Yeah, it doesn't have quite the same charm as Rush of Blood, but it's not far off, and it's still a very solid game. The shooting mechanics are spot on. It makes very good use of the PSVR2 eye tracking, haptics and dynamic foveated rendering, and it looks great. Importantly, it's fun. I think Switchback is more than worthy of your time and your money. So from me, it's a recommend, and that's even at full price. If you want more VR content, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm going to try and cover at least one more horror game on the build up to Halloween. I'm not sure which one it's going to be yet. There's definitely one game in particular that I really liked, and again was improved after launch. I might have to do like a fanboy post-patch review of that one. Can you guess which?